Hello, digital makers. Welcome to this very special Coolest Projects Code Along workshop. It's going to be awesome. If you haven't already, say hi in the chat and let us know where in the world you are. I'm Mr. C and I'm coming to you live from Cambridge in the UK. It's great to see a few people in chat early today. I can see Poonam is here and with us on YouTube. Great to see you getting involved. Welcome. We're excited to have everyone in the conversation tonight. Tonight, it's all about Coolest Projects. We've got James from EPAM as our special guest here today to talk about solving problems with technology and how young people worldwide like you can start building the skills they need to help change the world for the better. On the off chance you also joined us last night, we'll be doing the same project tonight, but this time we're broadcasting live for all of our creators in the Americas. So yesterday, the creators there were all in school when we hosted this workshop, so we're doing it again one more time just for them. So tonight, we're going to talk about how you at home can share your amazing inventions with the world in the Coolest Projects Global Showcase and what you need to do to get involved. We're also going to show you how to create an awesome game in Scratch called Save the Shark in our Code Along section. We love having you all here with us chatting on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So your comments are coming through to us live from those platforms, and we'd love to hear from you all during the workshop. Feel free to jump in, ask questions, or let us know your opinion. We see all your comments, and we'll do our best to share your thoughts. So we're here today to chat about Coolest Projects. See? Coolest Projects is the world's leading technology showcase for young people. It's an opportunity to get creative, have fun, and celebrate your ingenuity. Young people from all over the globe submit their creations to a global showcase, which is then shortlisted and judged by a panel of technology and social action experts from all over the globe. There's still time for you to make something awesome and enter it into this year's showcase. Registration closes on the 11th of May. Now, one thing to note about Coolest Projects this year is that there are categories and topics under which you can register your project. Now, the category into which you enter your project relates to the technology you use to create it. So the categories are Scratch, hardware, mobile apps, web, games, and advanced programming for things like machine learning. Now, the topics are what your project is about. So there are 7 topics to choose from. There's community, environment, health, fun, art, education, or identity. And don't worry, your project doesn't have to be about one of these topics. So today, we'll be taking a closer look at the environment topic. You should choose the environment topic when you register if your project is designed to increase the awareness of environmental issues or solve problems that are important to maintaining or repairing our natural environment. This could be related to earth science, climate change, nature, biodiversity, or all sorts of other environmental topics. So here, we've got a really great example of an environment project from last year's showcase that helps detect wildfires early. Check it out.
Hi, my name is Sashrika and I'm a 5th grade student and this is my project for the Coolest Project. So, what is a wildfire? A wildfire is basically an uncontrolled fire that can happen in forests and can get out of control instantly. Why should we prevent wildfires from happening? One reason we should prevent wildfires from happening is because there are so many greenhouse gases that are in wildfires that can release into the atmosphere and cause climate change. Another reason we should prevent wildfires from happening is because since it can spread so quickly, it can burn more things at once. For example, it can burn more houses and more animals at one time. I built a wildfire detection device that will use a sensor board called a BME 680 environmental sensor, which has all the sensors that I need. And based on this data, I can be able to predict what will happen in this situation. In this project, I'm going to be using a Raspberry Pi, a sensor board, and a camera that will take pictures so that it will be evidence so that there will be less false alarms. And I'm going to be using Balena so that I can manage my fleet of devices remotely. For example, if I have to update my program, instead of having to bring my device from the wild, instead I can just do it remotely on my computer. Also, if I have to duplicate my device, then instead of having to go through the same setup process as my first device, all I can do is just do it easily on the Balena dashboard. And to visualize my data that I'm going to be getting from my sensor board and the image, I will be using this website called UBDots, which is a website to visualize data as a dashboard. And I'm going to be adding events into this so that you can get notifications. For example, you can get notifications by email, text message, or Slack. Okay. If I had more time in my hands, then I would add machine learning efficient, because instead of having to write hundreds of if-else logics, all I can do is get sample data and I can be able to label them. For example, for one set of data, I can be able to label it for how the data is represented. Thank you for watching, and I hope this can be used to solve the real problem.
What amazing ideas. I mean, it's such a cool use of technology to help save the environment and maybe even lots of lives. Now, I've got to say, Sashrika's project is definitely one of the more advanced ones we've seen, but don't let that worry you. We get tons of projects from very beginners just getting started all the way to the advanced ones like Sashrika's. So our special guest today is James from EPAM, a global technology consulting company. Hey, James, thanks for being here with us today.
Hey, Mr. C, thanks for having me.
And so what's EPAM? What do you do?
Oh, EPAM. So EPAM, we're actually created in 1993, but as you said, we're a consulting organization, world-class software engineering, which today we've grown to become a leader in global digital transformation. So we help our partners solve problems. We help make ideas real. And that goes for both digital and physical projects or products. There's so many great ideas to bring to life. EPAM's been recognized as one of Fortune 100's fastest growing companies 3 years in a row. That just shows how much demand there is for what our creators are doing. So really excited to be here supporting Coolest Project and speaking to our digital makers. I'm sorry, Mr. C, can you repeat that, please? I think you might be muted.
How's that? I am muted. So my microphone must have jumped out. That's unfortunate.
No worries. We all do that. It's the digital world we live in.
Exactly, right? So I was just saying again, EPAM is it's a really big company. You guys do loads of different things with technology, lots of people's lives being touched by the things that you're doing. How are you using technology to solve problems around the world?
Yeah, we are big. We're in over 40 countries. We're across 5 continents. So big, absolutely right. We get to solve problems all over the world. And the environment is all across our world. So there's 2 really great examples that I'd love to share. What we do when we're approaching items that are going to help the environment is we make sure sustainability is the foundation of that approach. What I mean by that is when I go over these examples, we'll see the impact on the environment is absolutely the most important thing, but we want to make it cool and fun for people to use, because the more people that use it, the bigger the impact is to the environment. And then it's cool for us to use too. So it gets used a lot more. So it's a double win. One of the efforts that we helped do, we worked with one of our partners to eliminate plastic payment cards, so credit cards. We all have them in our wallets, in our purses, in our phones now. And if we think about a credit card, yeah, it's a piece of plastic, but it has to be made, it has to be packaged, it has to be shipped. There's a lot of impacts in there to our environment. And then every so many years, we get a new credit card. Or if we lose it, now there's more plastic waste in our environment. So our partners at ImaginePay said, let's do a digital wallet. And we know that there's things like Venmo and PayPal, and they do digital wallets, but let's help people make a digital credit card. So we partnered with them to create the world's first personalized virtual MasterCard. And what I mean by personalized is it goes back to making it cool for us to use. So when I got my first credit card, I was so excited to put a picture of my favorite sports team on it and keep it in my wallet. Well, I can do that digitally, and I can not just put pictures, I can also put moving pictures like videos. So now I have my digital credit card that I can use with Apple and all the other digital wallets and payment sources, but I'm helping the environment because it doesn't have to be sent to me. It's not physical plastic that I'm leaving there. So it's really, really cool, and it can be used all over the world.
So cool. That's amazing. That's like another step up from like paperless billing and everything like that, isn't it? It's like, it's a whole other level. That's super cool. That's amazing. I really love that. And you were saying there was another example that you were doing as well that had environmental impacts?
There is. So we're going to stick with the theme of plastic. Plastic bags have been a hot topic for the last few years. Many cities and states in the Americas are getting rid of them, but they're all over the world. It's estimated that 5 trillion plastic bags are used every year across the world, and only about 3% of those ever get recycled. So that's 5 trillion a year, and so few are being recycled. So they wind up in our landfills, and they say it takes almost 1,000 years for one plastic bag to fully decompose. So that's a lot of bags, 5 trillion a year over 1,000 years. That's a huge impact to our environment. So we worked with another one of our partners to create a device that would consume these piles of bags and compact them up in a way that makes it much easier to store them and to then take them to deliver for recycling. Again, that environmental impact and how we're helping across the entire process of what's going on. So the device is something you can have in your home. And for that, again, we had to think about the people that would use it. It needs to be affordable and it needs to be compact. So I want it in my house. So it's a great solution for homes. We created a functioning prototype, much like our creators here are doing. And later this year, we're actually going to be manufacturing that prototype to start looking at how we can further make it better.
That's awesome. I love that idea. The idea of like iteration, innovation, taking an idea, working on it, seeing how it works in the wild, bringing it back, updating that idea, testing it again. Like that cycle is a big part of the whole Coolest Projects journey. And it's one that we really love to try and talk kids through and help them. And I love the idea that that's a real world example where that practice is ongoing and you guys are making a big, big difference by using it. I think that's amazing. I mean, do you have any advice for young people who are sort of becoming creators, thinking to do these sorts of things, wanting to get involved with that innovation track?
Yes. So as we talked about, right, think more than just the actual thing you're creating and how is it going to be used and how can we make it more exciting to use? But also to build on the point you just made in that iterating is nothing's impossible. Everything we do is possible. And we have to ask ourselves how we can do it instead of listening to all the reasons we can't. Technology is about doing new things. We're going to hit roadblocks. We're going to face challenges, but they're not failures. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to do a new iteration. And that's how we truly figure out how to do things differently and innovate and do things we never thought were possible. That's how we bring these amazing dreams to life every single day. So don't quit. Every time you get a challenge, don't let it upset you. Look at it and look at it as a really exciting opportunity to tell everybody that you figured out how to do something different than what you thought you were originally going to do.
I love that. Yeah, the idea of like fail faster, right? It's not that
Yes.
not that I messed up 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that it's not going to work. This one does, right? I got there in the end. I love that idea, man. That you can keep pounding away at it, you'll get there. And the idea that even if you've got there, that solution may not be the final solution that you want. You can always improve those solutions as well. It's a never-ending process. That's amazing, man. And so, do you have any sort of encouragement or words of like, sage advice or get kids boosted up for making something and entering into Coolest Projects for us?
Yes. So, this is not just about creating a product. This is also about being thought leaders. These ideas that our digital makers are coming up with are helping everybody think differently and think about new things. We might have looked at something as simple as a package of yogurt in one simple way, but all it takes is one digital maker to think about that a little differently, and the entire world gets to think about it differently too. And that maker gets to see their thing real and live and being used and enjoyed by other people and helping our environment. It's so awesome to know that as an individual, we can make such a huge impact.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that thought. And then I think that idea and the extension of that idea is one thing I say to lots of parents and educators is our job is to put kids in front of computers, in the sense that if you never put Mozart in front of a piano, maybe we never got like the Rolling Stones or, it's something like that. You never know what might have happened because this one person came and had an idea, and that idea has been built on over time by hundreds of other people. And that's how we've got to the point we're at today with technology and things like this. It all started with a simple idea of, I think I can capture that energy and do something with it. And now we have amazing machines and technology.
So you never know what your project is going to lead to and who you're going to inspire. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. That's so true. Thank you so much for being here today to chat with us about how EPAM is solving all these problems around the world with tech and to inspire all our young, coolest projects creators. It was really great to have you, James. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Good luck, everybody, with the projects. And I cannot wait to see them and see how it inspires me to think differently in the future.
Awesome, man. Thanks very much. Catch you later.
Thank you.
Oh, that was so cool. Like seeing all that amazing work in the showcase and having a chat with James has inspired me now to like knock something up myself. So in this workshop, we're going to make a game called Save the Shark, and I'm going to do it in Scratch, which is a platform that you might have seen before. We use graphical coding. We clip blocks together and it makes things happen on screen. So we've got this here. So we've got our code along. This is my project. You can see here we have the starter project, and you can get to that quite easily at rpf.io save-shark or save-shark. This is the starter project. And you'll see when the starter project pops up, we've got two of these sprites down here. So we've got a shark and we have a plastic bottle and we have this blue backdrop to simulate the ocean for us. And so what my game is going to do is it's going to investigate things about sharks. It's going to teach my players about the habitat of sharks and how litter can damage their like native habitat and hurt the sharks themselves. And so this game here, what I want it to do is I'm going to get my plastic bottles to come down the water. I'm going to have to avoid them with my shark. And then a bit later on, if we get time, I might add something that would be positive, a nice food source for my shark to have a positive part of my game rather than just have the shark continue to go forever. So to start with, whenever we start a new project, the way I always like to start is when the green flag clicked, just because it's a universal start button. You know that if this is what you've got at the top, as soon as you click the green flag, all of those scripts will initialize, all the things you've set up to go at the very beginning will all kick off at once. So when the green flag is clicked, I want my shark to go where it is now. I want it to start at the bottom of my screen and I want it to be in the middle. So I'm going to give it my go-to block. So go to 0 and -120. Remembering that the X values are the sideways values and Y is up and down on my workspace just here. So the next part, we're going to use a control block, a forever block, because this script is my shark control script. This is how I make my shark move side to side, and I want it to happen the whole time the game is running. So as long as my game is running, I want this script to happen. So I use this forever loop just to make sure that that keeps on going. And now, the way I'm going to drive my shark, pardon me, I could use the arrow keys to drive it sideways. I don't really want to do that. So to add a little bit of versatility to my game, a little bit more accessibility, I'm going to use the mouse click, because that means that if my Scratch game is played on a mobile device, then it counts the same as touching the screen. So I can tap the screen just the same as clicking the mouse. And so to do that, I'm going to grab an if statement, because I want to say that if my mouse is down, then move, okay? Because that will be me clicking the button or holding on the tab. So forever if, and I want a sensing block. And the block that I want is if mouse down. And I'm going to put that in here. So if my mouse is being clicked or my screen is being touched, then I want my shark to move. So how do I get my shark to move? Right, so if the mouse click is to the left of the shark, then I want my shark to move to the left. So I'm going to say if, all right, because we already said it, if this happens, then that happens. So if I click to the left, so that means if the X value of where I click is less than my shark, okay, X value. So if the X position, no, if the X position is bigger, and then I want my mouse X on that side. So if where I click my mouse is to the left of my shark, then my shark moves to the left. Right, so I want it to change X by, fantastic, okay. And I want to change it by -10 because I'm moving to the left. And then because I know that this shark has 2 costumes, I'm going to tell it to go next costume, and that will make it look like it's swimming. Cool. So now if I click my green flag, you see my script has the yellow outline saying that it's running. So that's a currently running script. And if I click to the left of my shark, it should move left. If I click to the right, nothing happens. Okay, that's fine. That's because I haven't put the code in for that yet. So in order to get that to work, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to pull this down. So this time that's the alternate. If the X position is less than my mouse X, I'm going to have it move to the right. Change X by 10. So I'm going to pop that in here, making sure that it is inside my forever loop. Oh, I've just popped it inside. Yeah, and inside my mouse down loop. That's great. And then I want my if, so that's my left and my right. So if I run it now, I should. So I'll see my shark go back to the middle at the bottom, which is where I told it. Go left, go right. Fantastic. So that's my shark. It's moving. So I have my shark with its control system now running. Fantastic. So the next step I want is to get my plastic waste going. So the plastic rubbish, I click down here and I can see in the top right hand corner of my workspace that means I'm using my plastic rubbish. That's where I'm going to put all my code now. And yet again, we go to the when green flag clicked because it's the best way to start everything happening all at once. And we want my rubbish to go to the top of the screen in the middle to start with. So I don't really care where it's going to be in the middle because I'm going to make it invisible in a second, but I definitely want my Y value to be the maximum it can be, which is 200 at the top of my workspace. So that means my rubbish will start all the way up here, and I can double click my rubbish and you'll see the little circle popping up at the top of my workspace. So just here, if you watch, that's showing you where my sprite is hidden. So I want it to go exactly to where it is, and then I want it to hide if it isn't already. So at the beginning of the game, I want it to be invisible. So now what it's going to do is it's going to go to the top and it's going to hide. What I want it to do is make copies of itself, which will then drop down the screen at different rates in order to make my game work. So that's what I want to have happen. I'm going to make them drop down. It's going to look like the shark is swimming and the rubbish is going to go past the shark. So I'm going to take my forever. Where's my forever loop? Because this is going to happen the whole time the game is running. I want it to make a copy of itself. And then I want it to wait a little while before it makes another copy. Now, games work much better if you have randomness in them. Now, I could just leave it, wait 1 second, drop another plastic bottle, wait 1 second, drop another plastic bottle. But that's not exciting or interesting. There's no change there. There's no randomness. So if I go to my operators menu, I can use this, which is my pick random block. Now, 10 seconds is a very long time to wait in a game. So I'll use a maximum of 5. Go from 1 to 5 seconds is probably a nice range. Anything more than that is too long. Anything less than 1 second, you'll be spamming your screen with stuff, and you really don't want that. So now that I've got my bottle starting at the top and then hiding and then forever making copies, I want it to go somewhere else. Okay, so what I want it to do, I want that bottle to not consistently be here. I want my bottle to move to somewhere else when it appears. So I want my when I start as clone block. So any code that I do down under this script will happen when the bottle starts making copies of itself. So all the copies will follow this code here. So what I want the code to do, the copies, to do is to appear so that I can see them. I want them to change their costume, because if you look at the trash here, it's got 4 different costumes that it can have. So I'm going to tell it to switch costume to, you guessed it, pick a random one of my costumes between 1 and 4, because I have 4 costumes. So when I start as clone show, switch costume to 1 to 4, and then I want it to go to here, and we're going to pick another random number. So I want my Y value to be the highest it can be. That's 200, so we leave that one alone. Now the X values can go from minus 200 all the way up to 200. Okay, that's the full width of my screen now, minus 200 to 200. So my bottle's going to pick a random spot on the screen. And at the moment, nothing else is going to happen. It's going to show and it's going to go there. What I want it to do is once it's gone there, I want it to start dropping down the screen. To do that, I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to set it up as the speed of my items. You see here, I've got speed popped up on my screen so you can see what it's doing. I'll leave that up for now for diagnostic purposes so you can see it. But when the game is running, I'll hide that from my player. They don't need to see that part. That's a bit of a backstage calculation that they don't need to know. So what we want it to do is we want it to set speed. Once it's at the top, we want it to set speed to a random number. Okay, and we want that number to be something like -1 up to -10. Now, I'll get into why they're minus numbers in a minute, but for now, just understand that we're going to have our speed set to -1 and -10, and then we're going to have that continue falling down the screen. Okay, so once it sets its speed, I want it to drop down the screen until it gets to the bottom. When it gets to the bottom, it's gone too far and I don't want it clogging up my game anymore. I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to have it repeat until the position of the trash, the Y position of the trash, is less than minus 180, which is pretty much the bottom. It's slightly off the bottom. So we want it to, until it gets to this part at the bottom of the screen, I want it to change its Y value by whatever it sets as its speed. Okay, so we're going to get the game to change speed randomly. And then in order to make that happen, I want it to wait a small amount of time. 0.1 second, so a tenth of a second. So that's essentially our frame rate. So if you play games regularly, you'll know about FPS and frame rate. How many frames per second can your game flick through? So how quickly can it animate? Our game is only animating at 10 frames per second, so 10 FPS, but you can get dev tools for Scratch and things that will allow you to run projects at 60 FPS and things like that if you want. So we don't need to be fancy for that. My game's not fancy enough. So we've got this here. So when I start as clone, it's going to appear. It's going to look like a random piece of trash. It's going to go to somewhere random across the top of my screen. It's going to set a speed. And then until it gets to the bottom, it will change Y by whatever number that is every tenth of a second. Cool. So what do I want it to do when it gets to that value? So repeat until, move, move, move. When it gets there, what do I want it to do? I want it to disappear. So that's the end of that script. So what should happen now is when I click go, I should see speed will start changing and I'll see plastic bottles falling from the top of my screen. Okay, and I can drive my shark back and forward and they're changing speed. So if I eat the trash, nothing happens. Okay, that's expected though, because we haven't coded anything to happen yet, and that's the next step. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to give my shark health points. So I'm going to call this health, and this is how we're going to keep track. You could call it score, you could call it anything you like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to call it health because that's just what I want to call it. It makes sense to me to call it that. You could call it hit points, doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do now is once I've got this script going, so once my green flag starts, I need to set my shark's health to my starting number. The bigger the number, the longer the game lasts. So I'm going to set my health to 20 because that's like a decent amount of, hang on a sec, no, I'm working my trash. I just caught myself. So that's why they have this here. So this up here reminds me that I'm not working in the right script. I need to go to my shark to set the health for my shark. So I'm going to set the health here. That's better. Okay, so now my shark is getting the health set to 20. Fantastic. The last thing I want to do, so if my health gets to 0, I need to stop the game. So if my health gets to 0, so I'm going to say, I'm going to do one of these. So if my health is less than 0 or my health is 0, then I want to stop the game. Okay, so when my health gets to 0, if my shark runs out of health, stop all means game over, you lose. Now, we probably don't have time on this stream, but one of the things I would do if I was entering Cool's projects, I would answer the question, what would I do if I had more time? I would add more sound effects and I'd add like an end state with a sprite that says game over, so the player knew rather than just killing my game. But for now, killing the game works absolutely fine. And so what we want to do is now we go back to the plastic bottle. We need to set it up so when I start as a clone, so for every clone of the plastic bottle, forever while my game is running, okay, so as long as the game runs, if you are a clone, and if you are touching my shark, if you are touching the shark, there we go, then I need you to take health from the shark. How much? My shark, 4 bits of trash is enough to kill my shark. And then once the shark eats the rubbish, we need to get rid of the clone. Bang, get rid of the clone. So once the shark eats it, it's been eaten, the rubbish can go away. That should handle that problem. Let's see how it goes. So now I've got trash. Let's see what happens when I eat trash. Oh, and my health's gone down 15. I'm going to park up here and eat another bit of trash. Here we go. Cool, it's working. So if I can get, here we go. Let's see if I can get all the way down. There we go, down to 0. And then my game stops. Game over. Fantastic. That's what I want. Bro. So now that I'm running out of health and I can have my game finished when I run out of health, the last step is to add something nice for the shark to eat. So shark, eats Abby. No, shark eats fish. Fish. Okay. So new sprite called Fish. It has a bunch of different costumes, 4 different costumes to use. That's great. Now, I want it to essentially do exactly the same thing as my plastic bottle. I want it to appear at the top of the screen. I want it to make a copy. I want that copy to fall down the screen at a certain rate of speed. And if it touches the shark, I want it to give health back, which is really the only difference. And then I want it to disappear. So really, rather than working harder, I can work smarter and copy the scripts that I have on my trash to my fish and change the bits I need. Now, to copy scripts across is actually really easy. You just grab the top script that you want to copy across. And when I go to my fish, I wait for the wiggle. So you watch the fish and you get that little wiggle. Okay, that lets you know that that's the script that's going to get this. That's the sprite, sorry, that's going to get the script copied to it. So I get the wiggle and let go. Wait for the wiggle and let go. Wait for the wiggle and let go. So if I go to the fish now, right click. No, I don't want to comment. I want to clean up my blocks. You see all my scripts are there. Now here's the difference. The one thing we're changing, I don't want it to take health when the shark eats it. I want it to give health back. So I'm going to give 2 health back every time you eat a fish. I'm going to go this, double click it so it looks a bit cooler. Okay. So if I eat the trash, I should lose points. And if I eat the fish, I should gain points back. Oh, I have to dodge the trash and sacrifice the fish. Cool, it's all working. I'm gaining points back. I'm losing points. Everything's cool. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. So there we go. So I can enter that in Coolest Projects now. It's ready to go, basically. I can pop that into Coolest Projects, register it as a fun project. So fun topic, education and environment topics. And I would put it in the Scratch category, and that would be the project that I'd submit to Coolest Projects. That's it, done. So if you've got something you'd like to enter into Coolest Projects, or you want to start making something now, we have loads of resources to help you do that. If you want clarification on anything I'm about to explain, just ping me in the chat, and I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Now, if you've been inspired to particularly make something environmental, you can quite easily follow the Protect Our Planet path on the Raspberry Pi project site, all the way up to registration in Coolest Projects. So using the 3-2-1 make pathway structure that we have at Raspberry Pi, you can simply start at the beginning of the path and work your way through the 6 easy sequential projects to make something really awesome by the time you're done with them. You just go to rpf.io/protect-our-planet to get started. And even if you haven't finished off the cool thing you're making, you can still register it in the Coolest Projects showcase. All levels of skill and experience are encouraged. Even if you've never made anything before in your life, we would love to see the first thing that you've made. If you're looking for inspiration, we have literally just opened the showcase gallery for this year, which you can get online and see at rpf.io/showcase22. So jump on there, see what other people are submitting this year for Coolest Projects, get inspired, get some ideas, make your own thing, and then submit. Now, registering for Coolest Projects once you have something you'd like to enter is super duper simple too. To make sure that your project can be showcased in the gallery, you have to be eligible to take part. So if you're up to 18 years old and you've made something really cool involving technology, you can join in. You can work on your project as an individual or as part of a team of up to 5 other young people. Your project doesn't have to be finished either. Everything is welcome, from beginner stuff to advanced stuff in any programming language using whatever hardware you have available at home. Don't worry if your project is not 100% done. We love prototypes. We love works in progress. We love to hear about where you are going and what else you would do. Which brings me to the 3 questions you have to answer in your registration. Tell us about your project. Why did you choose to make this project? What problem is it solving? 2, what did you find difficult while making your project, and how did you get past it? How did you work this problem out? And 3, is there anything you do differently or you would add if you had more time? And that's the key one. So if your project isn't finished, that question's easy to answer. We'll ask you for these answers about your project in registration form, but we would also like to see you explain them in your video too. The more you explain your project, the more likely it is that you'll be shortlisted when people go, wow, that's amazing. I love how much work they put in here. Everyone who registers will be showcased in the gallery, and you'll get professional feedback from our judges, including this super cool poster made by an artist in New York called Joey Rex, and we're sending one to every single person who enters. It looks a little bit like my workshop downstairs, I have to say. It's probably maybe a little tidier than my workshop at the minute. But it's super duper cool, and everyone gets one. And for the people who are selected as judges' favorites, you can have one of these awesome medals, right? What an addition to your trophy shelf to have at home. This little medal here, right? Solid thing, really cool. Everyone who gets selected as one of the judges' favorites gets a medal. So it was really cool to see everybody in here today. It was great to chat with you all about Coolest Projects. I loved making my game with all of you, and thank you to James for coming on this evening. I'm super excited to see what all of our viewers will come up with for Coolest Projects. Now, before you all go, just do one more thing for me. Whatever it is that you're making at home, enter it into Coolest Projects before May 11. Doesn't matter if it's half-baked, in prototyping, or it's a market-ready product, just register. You'll get the awesome bag of swag that comes out to everybody at the very least, and you might even get one of these incredible medals for your efforts. You have nothing to lose. Just head to coolestprojects.org to register now. I can't wait to see what everyone's inventing. Thank you all for being here for the Raspberry Pi Foundation's Coolest Projects live stream. Thank you to EPAM for supporting Coolest Projects. We'll be back again soon with more digital making. Until then, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.